Have you ever stared at a list of numbers and just felt completely lost? Yeah, we've all been there. Well, we're going to fix that. Today, we're opening up the Data Storytelling Toolkit. The goal? To turn those confusing numbers into a story that's crystal clear, using just a few really powerful tools. Okay, so take a look at this list. These are the sale prices for 8 different houses. Right now, it's just a jumble of data, isn't it? At a glance, it's pretty hard to get a real feel for the market. You've got some high numbers, some low numbers, and then whoa, you've got that last one. How in the world do we make sense of this?
So this is it. This is the big question for any data detective. If you had to boil this all down to one single number to represent a typical price, what would you choose? Finding that number is our first mission. It's the key that's going to unlock the story hidden in all this data. So what's your gut tell you? To answer that question, we need to pull out our first tool. This one is all about finding the true center of our data, the main character of our story. Let's dig into the most common way people try to do this. First up is the mean. Now, you probably know this guy better as the average. The idea is super simple, right? You just add up all the numbers you have, and then you divide by how many numbers there are. It's supposed to give you a single number that summarizes the whole group. It's the go-to tool for a reason, so let's see what it tells us about our house prices. Okay, let's try something. Let's just ignore that giant last number for a second. If we calculate the mean of just the first 7 houses, we get about $315,000. That feels pretty reasonable, right? It sits nicely right in the middle of those other prices. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room. This nearly $4 million mansion is what we call an outlier. It's an extreme value that just doesn't seem to fit in with the rest of the group. And you know what? Outliers have a superpower. They can pull the mean wherever they want. And here's the proof. The moment we include that one outlier, our average house price skyrockets from $315,000 to over $760,000. Wow. Our so-called typical price more than doubled because of one single home. So let's just ask ourselves, is that new number really typical? Not a chance. It's higher than 7 of the 8 houses on the list. So here's the thing. The mean is easily fooled by outliers. This means we need a better, more robust tool for this job.
And that tool is the median. The concept here is just brilliant in its simplicity. All you do is line up all your numbers from smallest to largest, and you just pick the one that's sitting right in the middle. It completely ignores extreme values. It doesn't care if the biggest number is 4 million or 4 billion. It only cares about what's in the center. It's like a bodyguard for your data.
So let's try this with our house prices. We line it all up, we find the middle, and we get $335,220. Now that sounds way more like a typical price for this neighborhood, doesn't it? It gives us a much more honest picture because it wasn't dragged way up by that one mansion.
So let's just recap real quick. The mean uses every single value, which makes it really sensitive to those extreme outliers. The median, on the other hand, it just focuses on that middle position, which makes it a hero when you've got weird data. This is why, when you hear about average income, you should always wonder, is that the mean or the median? Because one billionaire moving into a small town could totally wreck the mean, but the median, it tells a much truer story.
Okay, so we found the center, but that's just chapter 1 of our data story. To really get what's going on, we have to know how the rest of the data is arranged around that center. We need to understand the spread. Look at this. We've got 2 different classes, and they both have an average test score of 85%. But are they telling the same story? No way. Class A is super consistent. Pretty much everyone scored right around 85. Class B is all over the place. You've got high scores, low scores. Same center, but a completely different reality. That's why spread matters so much. So how do we measure this spread? Well, we use a tool called standard deviation. Now, don't let the name scare you and don't worry about the formula. Just think of it as a consistency score. A low score, like for Class A, means your data is all bunched up and pretty reliable. A high score, like for Class B, means your data is spread way out. Think about it like online reviews. A product with 3 stars and a low standard deviation is just consistently meh. But 3 stars with a high standard deviation, that's a product that people either absolutely love or totally hate. And that's a crucial insight.
All right, now for our final tool. What if we could combine our idea of the center, the median, and our idea of the spread into one single elegant picture? Well, guess what? We can. It all starts with something called the five-number summary, and it sounds way more complicated than it is. First, you find the absolute lowest value, the minimum, and the absolute highest, the maximum. We already know the median, that's our middle number. Then you just find the median of the lower half of the data, we call that the first quartile, and the median of the upper half, the third quartile. That's it.
Let's try it with one sample household incomes. The median income here is $87,000. The middle 50% of all households, the real core group, earns somewhere between $77,000 and $101,000. And the lowest income is $69,000, while the highest, not counting any wild outliers, is $112,000. Look how much you can learn from just those five numbers.
And those five numbers come together to create this awesome little graphic, a box and whisker plot. That box in the middle, that shows you where the core 50% of your data lives. That line inside is your median, your true center. And those whiskers show you the full range of the typical data. You get the center, the spread, and even the skewness of your data all in one glance. It's a whole story in a simple picture. Ultimately, that's what all these tools are really for. This isn't about doing math just for the sake of it. The whole point is to take raw, meaningless data and turn it into useful information, and then turn that information into real, actual insight. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you read an article or see a report that mentions an average salary or an average price or an average of anything, what's the first question you're going to ask yourself? Are they talking about the mean or the median? And what story is the data really trying to tell you?